Chicago is the home of the blues. It's the house of house music. It's the consciousness of hip hop. Chicago is the mixture of the South with this big city sentiment, you know? Chicago is a city made up of politics, gangsters, political activism, and struggle, beauty in the struggle, and music that defines the themes of all of that.
Chicago takes hip-hop very, very literal and very, very serious.
The Brickheads, for example, were so ready to battle rock steady, man. They slept on the streets of New York for 3 days, 3 nights. They gave props and love. They were like, those dudes over there from Chicago doing that, these dudes are amazing.
By the time it started to pick up here, you know, the city of New York had already been well in advance in fighting with their war on graffiti. Chicago wasn't ready for that yet.
Hip-hop was not always cool, and it was not always everywhere. And we were a definitive tribe of kind of outcasts in our own house music-dominated city.
House people hung with house people. Hip-hop heads hung with hip-hop heads. There were a few that kind of did both. But not, it was firing in between.
And you don't hear this on GCI, the #1 station for hip-hop and R&B. Well, that's bullshit. Because they wouldn't play that when we came out. We from the 80s.
I literally was at the Bismarck when Lil Lewis was like, man, quit asking me to play rap. Rap music is for people from the projects.
College played a major role in that. WKKC was killing it.
If you was from the north side, you was on NUR. If you was from the south side, which I am, you was HBK.
I was tired of hearing Compton's in the house, New York this. And when people talk about Chicago, they talk about the Buckingham Fountains, this tower, the tour sites. I'm finna take you on a real fucking tour.
See, Chicago hip hop to me was designed as the message. Like it had to be, you had to come hard with your lyrics. And then it was about the beats.
It was Clark, it was Ski Beats, it was Jay, it was Dame. And at that time, we used to have arguments. Who was better, Cap D or Jay-Z?
Twista is one of the most lyrical motherfuckers in the game. It's just that he's writing 4 times more than most rappers in order to rap that fast and still is more lyrical.
It was the new sound. It was like we was all raw. We was new, untouched talent from the middle of the country.
And Twista was in the truck and he said his verse to us. And I was like, oh shit, it's finna change some shit.
I would go take Twista songs and I would go and get the lyric sheet and I would learn the lyrics and then spit his verses just to train my muscles to learn how to rap like that.
One day he was like, oh man, I think I want to change my name. I'm like, what do you want to change it to? It's like Common Sense. And that's dope. Like, do that shit. Do it.
My favorite record, rhyme for rhyme, is Resurrection. When that album came out, I was like, nobody's fucking with that guy. And me being a New Yorker at the time, people used to give me shit.
Kanye taught us as songwriters, himself, me, GLC, everybody. Malik Youssef, he taught us as songwriters how to collaborate. Kanye is the king of collaboration.
Chicago has just the gang mentality. That's Chicago's mentality. Chicago is diverse in the sense it's got a lot of different people, but they all stay in their neighborhood.
For real, especially in Chicago, this is gang territory, but that is what we were trying to get away from. Hip-hop it was the key to get into a whole lot of different neighborhoods.
It didn't matter what color you were, it didn't matter what language you spoke, it didn't matter what neighborhood you were from, it didn't matter, and none of that mattered. The only thing that mattered is, can you DJ? Can you b-boy? Can you MC? Can you make beats? All that mattered was, can you do what's required of the culture? And I think in hip-hop, it broke down those barriers. And I know for me, it broke down a lot of barriers.
Hip-hop is not black music, it's a lifestyle. That's what hip-hop is, it's a lifestyle.
You cut from a special and a different cloth when you were Chicago.
I noticed this from traveling around the world. I run into somebody from Chicago, and all of a sudden, it's like being part of a secret society or some shit like that.
As much as I hate the city, I can't escape the city.
So that was actually the premiere of this sizzle reel. It's the first time that anyone's had a chance to see it, and I just got so excited for our discussion, especially as someone originally from Atlanta but is so heavily immersed in the hip-hop scene in Chicago. I'm so interested in learning about the beginnings of the success stories that we see today with Kanye West and Chance the Rapper. So without further ado, let's welcome our panelists, Midway. All right, so why don't you tell us a bit about how the film came about? What started the project?
Well, it's what kind of makes everybody laugh now is that it was a project for me to get out of the corporate grind that I was doing. I was working for a marketing company. It was just kind of sucking the soul out of me, and I wanted to do something. I wanted to do something, music and film, and hip hop have always been, you know, right there towards the top of everything that I've ever been involved in. So this is one thing that kind of combined all that, along with me being a history nerd and everything else, and I was a journalist at one time, so it kind of combines all that stuff. And I think the catalyst for doing this was seeing this documentary series on hip hop on one of the main, you know, VH1, MTV, one of those types of channels. And it was like 4 episodes, and of course the first episode was on New York hip hop, with the birthplace of hip hop and everything. But then when they got into, then hip hop expanded into these other cities, and they mentioned probably 7, 9 other cities. Chicago wasn't even one of them, and that was kind of like, that's just ridiculous. And I mean, I've known Chad for about 20 years now, and like he said, I just called him up and was like, we're gonna do this. And he's like, cool. and here we are, and it's, you know, it started as like, we're gonna do a 2-hour documentary film, and it, you know, again, because we've come up in the culture and in Chicago, we know so many people, when we're sitting there and we're trying to, you know, one of the first things that you do is you're writing a list. Who are you gonna talk to? What are you gonna talk about? And we're like, so we started writing people down, and who are the top, 40 people that we need to talk to. And then it quickly was like, well, you can't leave them out. And if you leave them out, you can't leave them out. Mm-hmm. And so we're like, well, I guess we'll just talk to everybody, which is kind of how it's bloomed into being more of an archival project on top of the film. And yeah, so, and here we are just over 3 years later.
I looked at him and saw that list, and I was like, dude, this isn't gonna work. There's a lot more people we need to talk to, Cogs. And we both agreed that we needed to expand this. And then, like you said, it turned into a massive archival project, which now we're really grateful that it turned into that as well.
And the first person that I called to talk to about working on this was Chad. The second one was Kevin Beecham, who's not here. Mm-hmm. And some people may or may not know Kevin, but he's DJ and historian, and I mean, he's done a little bit of everything in hip hop. He was the host of Time Travel on WNUR, Northwestern's college radio station, from '95 to 2002, and he created the Chicago hip hop timeline back in, man, when did he do that? Maybe 2000, something like that. Yeah. And if for nothing else, we would use that as some sort of reference, but I've known Kevin for a long time, and this was like, I wouldn't feel right doing it without him. So he was the second person that I called. So me, Kevin, and Chad, spent the first couple of months kind of outlining and putting things together before we eventually then kind of expanded the team to what it is now.
Got it. So I was doing some research, and I saw that there were over 76 vignettes that you've already put out there on your YouTube page. Mm-hmm. This is a massive undertaking. How many people did you end up interviewing so far?
Well, we are still interviewing.
Okay.
But right now, I believe the number is 192 interviews.
Wow.
We've done. So there's still interviews to go. There's still many vignettes to go. And, some people do get a little bit confused. The vignettes are not the project. There's just to show what we're doing and that it's coming. So
the biggest thing with the vignettes are to show people that it's still being worked on and let people know that there's been a lot of, like anywhere, there's a lot of projects, and it can be overwhelming for people. So people will start something and then quit, and that happens a lot. And we want to make sure that people see that we're committed to this and we're continuing. That's why we constantly are spending time, with Barb and everybody to continue posting on social media and showing, and the vignettes are a way to keep people, you know, interested. And it's a good way to, because our interviews are long usually with people, and they can be anywhere from an hour to 2 hours plus sometimes. So that information, we got such great information in that interview, we want to make sure we can use it. It might not fit in the film, but we want to be able to use it in some form or fashion because it's information that should be heard.
Awesome. And with 192 interviews, what has been some of the most interesting stories? Like, I want to get to the juice. Like, what has really stood out to you? What are some things that people might not know about these artists and DJs that are featured here?
I know you got I mean, there's so many, right? And I got to say, honestly, we haven't really had a lot of bad interviews. Everybody's had something interesting to say. Maybe in an hour interview, maybe not everything. Everything's kind of like an hour might not be all interesting, but they have something really juicy to say in a good way. One of the great things is seeing how everybody's connected. And I won't get into that because it's kind of long, but we have a connection from someone who a lot of people might not know that connects all the way to Kanye West, that shows how if this person didn't do what they did, then Kanye may or may not have been where he's at, and I'm sure Kanye probably doesn't even know who this person is. So we're able to, with this film, we'll be able to kind of connect the dots and show the importance of, you know, how everybody's connected. That's kind of what's been really cool for me.
Does anyone else have any really interesting stories they'd like to share?
Do you want to tell the rubber room?
Well, the rubber room story was a really emotional story for me. And I think a lot of other people that was able to listen to Rubber Room. Rubber Room is an awesome group. What year did they come out, Chad?
I mean, mid-90s they started.
Yeah,
Architect
and the sound is kind of like an industrial sound, like an industrial hip-hop sound. And that sound directly influences the sound that we hear today. If anybody is out there that's into a group called Run the Jewels, Run the Jewels is directly influenced by a group called Rubber Room.
Yeah, LP will tell you that completely.
Yeah, sure.
Which is funny. Quick side story to that. But one of the first sessions that Chad and Kevin and I had when we're talking about people, you know, who we want to talk to, we're talking as people that are also not from Chicago, that may have worked with Chicago artists or have some sort of relationship there. And one of the people that I wanted to put on the list was LP. And they were kind of like, oh, okay, like, you know, why LP? And I'm like, because when I talked to him in 2004 or 3 or whenever it was, he directly he told me himself how much of an influence Rubber Room and the Opus production was for him. And then Kevin was like, that's kind of funny that you mentioned that because I gave LP a Rubber Room demo back in like 95. So that's where
he stayed with LP and gave him, and they traded demos. So he had the Fun Crusher Plus demo. LP gave him, Kevin, the Fun Crusher Plus demo, and then he gave him the Gothic Architecture demo.
Yeah. But sorry, back to the Rubber Room story.
So I think we all got emotional around the time that I guess they had a deal. And I think Chad can tell the story a little bit better than me.
Well, okay, so they had a deal, and everybody from Chicago was really rooting for Rubber Room at that time. If you were ahead in that era, you loved those guys, and they were getting touted as the next thing to blow. Rolling Stone did a big, huge article on them, and everybody was getting excited because this was one of, outside of Common, this is going to be the next group that would represent us, and we were all happy about that. They were a great representation of us, and we felt like these guys could come back and reach out to other people and try to help expand the city's exposure. And the label called in the middle of their tour and folded, said, you know, they still had whatever 10 cities left. They said, it's over, come home. So Metamo, he's one of the main rappers. He gets flies back. He gets on the L to go home, and he said he rode the train all night, you know, back and forth, and he was afraid to step off the train because the second he knew he put his foot on the ground, it was over. Oh. It was over for him, and he felt like that was their shot. So he's, you know, people are putting literally their blood, sweat, and tears into this music and culture. And, you know, we got emotional because not only have we been a part of this community, but you know, you wanted them to win, and you just felt his pain, and that it really, in the interview, it really bleeds through.
Yeah,
for sure.
And hopefully that story does a lot to dispel the myth that Chicago is full of a bunch of haters and we don't have each other back. That's always been a wives' tale to me, because just due to the fact that there's collaborations that's going on here on the stage, as Rhymefest said, that Kanye may have been the king of the collaboration, but he did learn that from the culture here. Now, there was beefs between crews. That's just natural. I'm fresher than you.
Competition.
My crew could get up more than yours. But when you came down to it, it was that bridging of all of the different cultures and all of the different segregated areas of the city that made Chicago hip-hop what it is and what it was. And it's just inescapable. And my joy about being the pretty much the archivist and the curator of the exhibition is that we get to see this interconnected story. It's just funny looking at who really, really were the seeds that germed Chicago hip hop. It'll make a lot of people drop a lot of their pretenses about race, ethnicity, and culture, and who's really down for the cause. It's just a beautiful thing. And one of my favorite stories is, I guess Ayamas Murad said it best. We were all about staying fresh. You had to be original with it. The way he would tell that, you know, we would go and try to put on layaway our new polos. You know, I was a Nautica dude. You know, I used to get my khakis with the braided belt, tongue out on the gym shoes, my cap with the bent brim, just trying to look fresh. And then you see somebody else doing it harder than you.
I think, do we have that?
We do have the Ayamas.
You want to show that? We do have that clip.
Ayamas Murad?
Oh.
We can show you a clip of the Ayamas Murad, yeah.
Let's take a look.
That's where I first seen like legends of Chicago, like Reginald, Twilight Tone, Anthony and Anton, Juice. That's the first time I saw Juice, and Akbar, and Kanye was the one that took me to the bop shop. First time we went and we sat in the car. I'll never forget, we sat in the car, and we used to get our polo from TJ Maxx. You know what I'm saying? And we put it on layaway. Cause we ain't had no money for polo. You know what I'm saying? So we'll put our money on polo, a bunch of polo shirts. We think we flossing, like we in the car, like, yeah, you looking bad, like, yeah, you look bad, man. Word, we good, you know what I'm saying? And then we'll get to the spot and see Anthony or Anton and his brother walk past, or Reginald walk past, and you wanna burn your shirt, cause them dudes did it on a level where we was like, where are they getting this polo from? You know what I'm saying? Like, where, they can't be getting their polo for what we getting our polo. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just like, where are they getting these polo pieces from? Like, we just want to burn our shirt, you know what I'm saying? And I used to just, like, idolize them. Them dudes was like superheroes to me, you know what I'm saying?
So aside from staying fresh, being original, and the sense of community, were there any other larger themes or threads that you noticed throughout the interviews and that you want audiences to take away from them, with them after seeing the film?
I mean, some of the stuff that we're talking about is, you know, Amani touched on it earlier, is the segregation within the city. And, you know, and there's a lot of different levels of segregation, whether it's race or ethnicity or gangs or any of that kind of stuff. And hip hop was the thing that brought everybody together for it, you know, kind of what Andrew was saying, you know, people were doing hip hop to get out of that stuff, and it was giving you that pass to travel from the south side to the north side and to be part of that group, and it was all inclusive. So we're touching on themes like that here. You know, we're trying to do more than just a straight, this person put out a record or painted this wall that led to this. Like, we want to get a little deeper in what makes Chicago different from other cities. And
I was gonna say, there's two running themes that are very unique to Chicago's experience in being hip hop. And like you said, segregation. Segregation really played a role. Our city is divided up into kind of three cities, with the east side kind of being, I kind of put that with the south side, but you know, the segregation is so important because here, you know, you got a city like New York, and all the MCs, it doesn't matter where they're from, what borough they're from, you know, they're New York MCs. You kind of know that's everybody's kind of the same. Chicago, you have the West Side, which is completely different in culture and style, and in rap, it's called a cadence, the way a rhyme pattern's put on track. And then you have the South Side, which is very different, and you have the North Side, which is very different. Everybody has their own influences. While they'll work together at certain points, it still was like 3 little cities within one major city. And, you know, and that can be divided, like you said, by race. Even ethnicity within race could break up, because if you grew up in the city, you may know that, you know, it's a Polish neighborhood or an Irish neighborhood, Puerto Rican neighborhood, Mexican neighborhood. And then those are divisions. Then you have gang divisions, which again played a major role in how people moved through the city and how they became involved in hip hop. And then also, you can't forget, this is the birthplace of house music, all right? So that played a major role in how hip-hop, or you developed with hip-hop. Some people hated the house movement. Some people loved it and embraced it. But either way, doesn't matter. We're Chicago. It's the birthplace of house. So the way you moved through the city, house had a role in that. Yeah.
To camp on to what you just said, like in almost all of the interviews we were in, and we heard from people that these guys, if they weren't part of hip hop and they were going through one part of the gang culture in one gang area to another gang area, they may have gotten attacked or, you know, messed with. But because they were part of hip hop and they knew them from the different gangs, from hanging out at the shows, you know, oh, leave that guy alone. He's part of that crew, or he's part of that crew.
So Barb, I used to do graffiti back in the day, and
just a little bit.
And there were places where we would get up, and you know, cats would come by like, "Yo, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Yo, you know, I'm just trying to do this piece," and they would be like, "Yo, like they're hip hop, like leave them alone."
Yeah,
you know
man.
what I mean?
Wow.
So that let us travel. You know what I mean?
And that could be a life or death situation. We had Peely Fresh tell an amazing story about how he got ran up on and a gun pulled on, and him and Akbar were literally made to rap. And if they couldn't, you know, they had to prove themselves, right? And that's happened. A few people have that very similar story. One thing that I do want to specify too, though, is while we do talk about the rapping and DJ culture, this is the whole hip hop culture. That's what's made this project so big. Is we're covering the dancing, the b-boys, the breakers, and we're covering the graffiti aspect. So it encompasses the whole culture and the movement, as opposed to just the rappers or the DJs.
And blues music also plays a major role in Chicago. So in addition to house and blues, did you notice a lot of people pointing to certain other older artists as their influences and shouting them out in the interviews? That might be surprising to us here.
I can't say we had too much.
We just had Crucial Conflict. I'll let you talk about it. But Crucial Conflict was one of them. So.
Yeah. Before telling that story, I just want to say, maybe not specific artists, but that's another theme that we've been talking about, is how, you know, Chicago used to be, you know, kind of the mecca of music, especially, you know, the blues, and you know, we've had Record Row all up and down Michigan Avenue, and that's one of the things that stunted at least the music part of hip hop in Chicago, was that a lot of that industry went away, you know, in the late 70s, early 80s, and so we're talking about that, but Chicago hip hop culture has been here since the beginning, since it started in New York. It's just been more. It's just been more. You know, graffiti and dancing was the big thing, you know, in the 80s, in the late 70s and 80s. But to this story, we've been very fortunate to be able to film some of our interviews at the legendary Chess Records. And I mean, just for us being music fans, I mean, the first time that we went in there and we were able to look at that, I mean, I think all of us kind of got chills when we were just like walking up those stairs, knowing the history of just that building. But we recently interviewed Crucial Conflict, and like, I think they were taken just as much as we were by the thing, because they were taking pictures. They were so excited, and just like they were like kids who were, you know.
I mean, being in that room, the hair will stand up on your arm because you're in the birthplace of what becomes rock and roll. I mean, you have Johnny Be Good was recorded there. It was written in the basement. Chuck Berry recorded a lot of his records there. You have Etta James. You have Muddy Waters. And
Didn't the Beatles cut their first American record at Chess?
The Beatles, no, that was VJ across the street.
Across the street.
But Fleetwood Mac recorded there. The Rolling Stones recorded a big record there. And Aretha Franklin's very first record was recorded there. If you guys get a chance, go down to Willie Dixon's Blues Museum, the original Chess records. It's amazing. Thank you to Julia, too, for hooking that up for us.
We were talking a bit before we started here, and you were telling me about some artists that were from Chicago originally. Like, I didn't know that David Banner was born here. Are there any other artists that you were able to interview or that you plan to interview that people might be surprised to know that they're actually from Chicago?
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead, Ryan.
I
jumped in on it. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, Charlie Tuna from Jurassic 5, who everybody knows them as being a Los Angeles group, but he was born in Chicago. He's part of Chi-Rock Nation. As far as who we're going to interview, I know that there's some on there, but to be honest, our list is so long with people that my brain is getting a little scrambled trying to pinpoint who
tell you
higher,
one.
but so.
Mr. The Rappin' Duke.
That's a good one.
The Rappin' Duke. Some of you guys might be a little young, but if you remember the Rappin' Duke, he put out a record in 1986. His name was Sean Brown. The record was called The Rappin' Duke. He raps in, it's kind of a novelty record. He raps like John Wayne, right?
I'm talking here and now.
Yeah.
With the cattle and rustling the cows. Dancing, go repeat. You can bet your sweet Willie I'll be dancing in the street.
There you go.
Sorry.
But yeah, it was immortalized in Biggie's Juicy record, where he, what's the line? Remember rapping Duke. So yeah, he went to Morgan Park High School. He's from Chicago. So
he's in Atlanta now,
Shabba-Doo from the movie Breakin', Ozone, born and raised in Cabrini. So, and he's very excited to be a part of this. We haven't filmed him yet, but we've been going back and forth, and he's really excited to tell his story because he brought a lot of from style to style of dance to style of dress to LA, which really kind of gets credited as being an LA thing. And he tells me, it's funny, he's like, man, there were no Puerto Ricans in LA. He goes, I'm the one that brought all that there. And I mean, I believe him. And he was very specific on certain styles, and he formed the LA Lockers with Rerun Barry and Mickey Basil, yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were a very popular dance crew, so. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Wait a minute. That's something I didn't know. You saying that Chicago has something to do with the rerun?
It does.
I also learned that there have been a lot of documentaries about the story of hip-hop in Chicago that haven't actually been finished or just get deterred for whatever reason. So how has this project been different? How have you managed to raise funds for such a massive undertaking? And how do you keep moving forward with such an important story?
I'm the last one to join the project so far, and from what I've seen, the project is different in the fact that it's not just one particular crew of individuals doing the work. And when I say that, you'll hear people coming from one side of the town. You'll hear people telling the 63rd Street story of hip hop, the North Side story of hip hop. We come from all sections of the city, so we're invested in representing hip hop in a holistic sense in its entirety. So I see that being a tad bit different, and we're not including any section of hip hop that's born here. From the drill music, some of the hip house, to the conscious rap.
Everything's included.
Everything's included, so we're not picking and choosing who it is that we're trying to represent. We're here to represent Chicago hip hop in its multifaceted forms. We all like it to knock in the trunk, and if it got a message behind it, some of us like it better. If it's getting rah-rah, others of it like is better. So it's just the difference is that we're actually trying to tell the entire story of hip hop, not just the rap side, not just the DJ culture side, not just the breaking side, but everything.
We're covering all the different styles of hip hop here, and there's, like I said, there's a lot of unique styles, because people are like, are you going to cover the drill scene, or are you going to cover this? Because they really didn't think we were going to. And we're like, yeah, it's even hip house. It's connected to Chicago hip hop. But one thing I do want to say it again, I go back because like the graffiti and the dance culture, Chicago didn't really have a rap scene until, I would say, there's not a really real way to exactly quantify it, but there was a bunch of releases as 12-inch singles, and people were rapping, and there were singles as far back as '82. And there was a lot of stuff. And then one of the first albums I just had posted was MF Boy's 1988, late 88, early 89. But really, it was kind of scattered, and there wasn't necessarily a huge scene here. Before that, hip-hop was held down by the graffiti and the dance crews and the DJs. And the graffiti was and the dance crews were really the start of the hip-hop movement here as far as the culture, as far as what you call hip-hop culture. And then, and then you had groups like Ill State, which is one of the earliest crews, Purple Mansion on the south side. Yeah, they were crews that shot Rock Nation in the mid '80s, late '80s. Everything started kind of coming together and forming more cohesive crews, and and here we are today.
Yeah, I'd say.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, to answer your question about funding around this film.
Thanks, Grayson.
So the unique thing about this project is, I can say, and I think we can all say, is this is a legitimate, independent film that's being made. And what I mean by that is we have no, as of right now, I mean, it's definitely being worked on, but we have no funding. It has all been out of pocket. It has all been based on the relationships that we all have. And it is a grassroots project that has taken a lot of time, a lot of dedication, and it's one of those projects that you can honestly say when independent film in the way that it's used has been skewed, in the last 10 plus years. I can honestly sit here and say that we are developing and creating an independent project. But by all means, though, that doesn't mean we don't need the funding.
No. It's definitely independent when we go, hey, can we do this trip? Let me see how much money I got in my pocket. It's literally coming out of our pocket.
And to honestly finish the film and to finish telling the story that we want to tell and that we want to bring to the world, we will need to secure, that funding to finish a project like this, because it is a feature film.
How can people contribute financially, like people in this audience, perhaps?
I mean, currently there's two ways. There is you can go to patreon.com, and it's patreon.com/midway/midwaydoc. And that's kind of like a monthly subscription type thing. So if you want to give us $2 a month or $5 a month, and then you can get little things like video updates and stuff like that. Or you can just give us a one-time donation through PayPal, which is just paypal.com/midwaydoc. But to kind of real quick piggyback, I know we're running out of time, but to kind of piggyback on what everybody was saying, it's what makes this different is that there's been little documentaries on a specific crew or on a specific scene. I think this is when we're going to finish it, and it's going to encompass everything. We want to make sure that we encompass everything. And it's, and as we said, we've been working on this for a little over 3 years now. We've been filming for over about almost 2.5 years now. So it's like, that's why we're doing the vignettes, because we didn't want to film somebody in 2015, and now it's 2017, and like, whatever happened to it? I don't know. So, we're still doing that. I guess this is all of our project, but since I'm the director, it's, I'm directing it. And I left my job 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago now, just specifically to work on this. So it's definitely a labor of love. It's a passion project, but we want to, and we obviously have to, thank the community, the hip hop community, because everybody's been so gracious with, with their time, with their knowledge, with their contacts and everything like that, because, we know a lot of people, and we've definitely used that, but we wouldn't be where we are without, without the community support too, which
this is the community project. This is the city. This is the city of Chicago, and this is the hip hop community's movie. This is their story. This isn't his film. It's not his film. It's not her film. It's not my film. It's not, EC's film, it's not Kanye's film, it's not Common's film, it's the community's film. And this film, as I always state, it's going to be as good as the community lets it be and shares and helps us make it. And we've gotten nothing but great help from everybody. I mean, in any way possible, we've gotten help from the community. So I can't be more happy. And that's totally against what people say the city is.
Yeah. Right.
Awesome. And just kind of lastly, it's like it's you know, it's kind of perfect timing to do a project like this, just with the success of, you know, Chance. It's just blowing up. There's no other way to describe that. And as much, you know, he'll be in the film, and Common will be in that. And as much as it's, you know, we want to celebrate those successes, we also want to celebrate everybody that built that foundation for them to stand on where they are. I mean, you know, Chance is doing everything independently now, and it's great. But there's a lot of people that did it independently before him that he's learned from and learned what not to do. And that's kind of been the Chicago thing too. You know, it's not to you know, use the cliche, but it's the blue collar mentality of kind of do it yourself type of thing. And that's one thing that Chicago's always had, and it's definitely been part of the hip hop culture. And so we want to shine a light on.
And one thing I just want to say before time runs out too is this is also an archival project, and we partner with the Center for Black Music Research, and we are collecting flyers, posters, literally anything. Dr. K gave us an original 1991 Ill State varsity jacket. That's one of the coolest things I've ever seen, because I haven't seen one of those except on an album cover like 20 years ago. So the stuff we're getting is amazing, and people are contributing. So we're collecting and preserving the culture, because it doesn't need to be in somebody's basement and God forbid they pass away or a flood or something happens. We need to have, this is bigger than all of us now. The culture and the scene we've created is bigger than one crew. It now deserves to be put away so people can learn from it and we can continue. And it's everything, like I'm donating my whole record collection, so as far as Chicago hip hop. So this is, again, it's bigger than all of us.
Definitely, definitely. All right, well, thank you so much for answering my questions. Now I want to give the audience a chance to ask questions of their own. If you could just step up to the mic. If you have a question in mind, yes, go ahead.
I have a slight question, but also just a proclamation. My name is Carl West. I am the guy that created Chicago's so far only hip hop and R&B awards that lasted for 10 years. And most of the artists that you guys mentioned all graced the stage in their early career. And that was part of what I wanted to do, was to create a venue for emerging artists to have an opportunity to be saluted. And so it was an amazing transformation for me and artists. I mean, it opened my eyes up to so much. And so I want to make sure that if possible, I can make sure that I got video of a lot of performances early on with Kanye and Common and so many people. I got the footage of Kanye actually being Kanye. It was one of the first times he had a platform like that, and he was cursing the radio stations out because they wouldn't play his music. And so I kept it to myself because I didn't want to embarrass the brother, because it was pretty graphic after he had performed. But and I still won't release all the footage, right? Because we want to honor that brother because he's been so powerful to our community. But hip hop was a labor of love for me, that award show. So I just wanted to make sure that I put that out there. And also, I mean, I've been blessed over the years from that experience. I want to know what I can do to be an executive producer on the movie.
Okay, well, first of all, salute to you for doing that and giving people a platform at that time. Yeah, and footage-wise, anything we can get like to that will help make the film better. And we'll obviously, the whole point is to make Chicago look good, so we want to use stuff that's in a positive light. But, you know, talk to Ryan, and I mean, we can definitely talk about it. But we much appreciate, A, for what you did for the community, and B, for helping out in any way. Again, a community project, guys.
Thank you so much.
Hello. Hi. Googler here. My favorite documentaries tend to have a story arc, regardless of the fact that it's kind of a nonfiction piece of work. So I was wondering if there was a clear story arc that you're aiming for, or if it's too early in the process. And then my second question is what your hope for Chicago is post-documentary. What does an ideal world look like as a result of your work?
Ryan,
I'll definitely speak to the story arc in that we definitely want to create a story arc. We've got an outline for that. and it's going to come together with the voices of everybody that we've interviewed talking about this particular subject, and that I think, you know, if there's kind of one theme maybe to take away from what we're trying to do, is maybe be like underdog, you know, like Chicago having that success and making it happen despite the lack of major record labels, or, you know, just kind of the infrastructure to do that. There's a lot of, you know, Chicago graffiti artists, you know, really paved the way as far as, you know, that culture and that art and that look being mainstream today. You know, Chicago had a big part of that, and you know, so we want to, you know, so that's probably, I would say, the theme, where there's definitely going to be, like I said, we definitely want to get away from the linear storytelling as possible, and we want to make it compelling. You know, I want this project to be accessible, and somebody find interesting, you know, who lives in Montana or Wyoming, who has no idea about hip hop or Chicago, to at the very least find the story interesting.
Yeah, it's a struggle story for sure, because a lot of these people, like, they give everything, and Chicago is a very blue collar. It's a Midwest blue collar, hustle, hardworking city, and that everybody's story kind of fits that. And you know, you have someone like Chance who did it on his own. So like, you know, this is kind of everything. The story arc is kind of be based on just leading up to where we're at today and the success and all the struggles that happened beforehand. And what I would love to see happen at the end of this is just the community to start embracing all of us. And when I say all of us, I mean, like, because right now, their tendency to be like, let's say you see like a pizza, right? And you have like little pepperonis on it, right? And you have little circles. And everybody's kind of in like community, their own little hip hop circle. And I want to try to make that disappear and make a little bit more unification. I think the film, people will learn a lot more of their history they can take away, especially the younger kids will learn why ill state is one of the most important things that ever happened in their life that they never knew is important.
Love it.
Well,
thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? Oh, go ahead.
I've got a question. So you guys talked about the original ideas for it being kind of just a documentary, and then it grew, and now it's an archival project. You talked a little bit about your partnership with the Center for Black Music Research, but I wonder if you can talk a little bit about the Midway brand, because I know there's also Midway Radio. So a little bit about kind of how it's expanding and how we should look out for Midway.
So as far as the partnership with Columbia, when we started putting it together, we wanted, my first vision was just kind of have the Midway website be kind of like a place for people to go just to learn more about Chicago hip hop. And as the project grew, it always was in the back of my mind that I wanted to do that, partner with some sort of educational institution, because that's really something that's becoming more and more popular now, because Cornell's got a big hip hop archival thing, the Smithsonian. I think it's the University of Tulane does the Southern hip hop stuff. So that was always something that I wanted to do. And Chad and I were lucky enough, we were on a panel, or not a panel, but we were in part of a group to help kind of develop a hip hop minor at Columbia College Chicago. And through that, I started talking to people in the music department, which led me to the talk with the Center for Black Music Research. And they were like, we want to be your partner with this. And I said, that's perfect, because Columbia's got such a huge history with Chicago hip hop. That's the perfect marriage with that. So if anybody doesn't know about the Center for Black Music Research, they've got one of the largest jazz collections and blues collections. And it's just, I mean, it's an amazing institution. And people come from all over the world to do their, you know, thesis papers on, you know, the stuff that they're working on. They've got, so the fact that they want to preserve hip hop is great. So we're working with them to kind of funnel what we're finding and what we're researching so they can archive it, you know, for people to learn from for forever. And then to the second one for the Midway brand, excuse me, that's kind of how we're looking at it as a brand, and just to kind of create awareness, because we want to, and kind of go back to the question about where we want to see Chicago be after this. You know, we're all in Chicago. We're all from Chicago, and we want to reverse those negative stereotypes that are out there, whether it's from hip hop culture or just for the general Chicago violence and that kind of stuff. So we want this film to be a very positive light on Chicago, and you know, and part of that is just expanding the awareness of this project. So we started Midway Radio, which is a video podcast we do almost every Monday night at 8 o'clock, and we've had a lot of really cool guests, and we just have a kind of a general conversation. It's more current as to what's going on with it, where our interviews are more historical and talking about the past. But yeah, and we've got some other ideas. We got some other things that are coming up that we can't quite say yet, but yeah, we're always looking to expand.
I just want to say one last thing, and he kind of touched on it. I love my city. I love the people that are in this city. I love the culture of this city, and I'm really just over the national narrative that they portray of my city that's just inaccurate. So with this film, we're hoping to show that there's a lot of love and peace and positivity that comes through a culture in this city, and that's what I want to definitely make sure people get when they see this at the end of it.
Perfect. I think we have time for one more audience question.
Hello, just exactly kind of going off what Mr. West was saying, moving forward, what are some things that you guys are looking for?
Like to collect for the archive?
As far as the production and stuff goes?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we're still interviewing, so we still have, that to go, and then we're looking for archival stuff for both the film and for the Center for Black Music Research and that stuff. So that's anything from flyers to photos to videos. We've got a lot of people donating stuff on Hi8 and VHS tapes and some DVDs and stuff like that. Any posters, all that stuff is going to be scanned at museum quality, because that's another thing that we want to do when the film is done, is we want to do like a joint exhibit, a Chicago hip hop exhibit, along with showing the film and stuff like that. So we want to put some of that stuff on display.
We're going to make that happen.
One more. Did you guys think about creating maybe a saga? Because if you truly want to dig deep into Chicago's roots, we're going to need more than one project. And I'm just like, if you go back, I was hearing you say, some of the elder names, but I'm a younger guy, so I want to get straight into like 2008, straight into, it's 2008 to about 2016. I have archive, Director of Archive. I hosted radio for about 6 years so far, so I can be helpful there. But
that'd be amazing.
I really want you guys to take this and really capture it, because it's only going to happen one time.
Look, I'll tell you flat out, we have, like I said, we have our interviews that are like an hour to sometimes 2+ hours with people. We eventually want to make sure all this footage is seen by everybody. There's nothing we want to leave in the vault. So we're talking about all different ways to use it outside of the film and make it available for everyone to see. Like, this is, we definitely feel like at one point me and him looked at each other like, man, we got like a legit responsibility now, like beyond the film. Like, this is a real community responsibility. But I'm fine with that. Like, it's not even a pressure. It makes me feel proud, and I can go out and, you have someone like, like a new kid like Saba that needs to be celebrated for all the great things that he's doing.
Right in there. And we got other kids that didn't make it to that light and that are sleeping.
Certainly.
That we need that light to be shined on them that tried to get to that point but couldn't make it out.
You have people like D.A. Smart, who might be, well, I mean, for me, he's one of the greatest rappers to ever live on planet Earth, period. I'm comparing him with Jay-Z and everybody. But a lot of people don't know him outside of Chicago, and to me, that's like, it's insane. Like, that's insane that D.A. Smart, but it's just the breaks of the city sometimes. But we want to make sure that at least people are going to get a chance to be exposed on a different level to them.
Yeah. So that being said, me being one from the each one teach one generation, spread the message out there, bro. Let the little ones know, let the young ones know that this is what we're doing, and expose them to it so that they know that they should be helping with this. I mean, not saying that we're getting old, but we can only put so many bricks in the wall at this time, and we're trying to lay the foundation so that those who come after us can keep building on it.
We want this to continue to go. Like, after the film is done, we're still going to continue adding to the archives and filming interviews with people as new people come along.
So not just a 2 or 2.5 hour documentary. We would like it to be a series, but that takes time, money, energy, and effort. And I hope I'm not overstepping the boundaries
No, you're right.
by saying that
I yell at him every day.
Yeah, we're asking the community to hold us, to be beholden, make us beholden to the community, like check up on us.
And
like,
share on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and keep sharing out there. The more people reach, the better our chances are of getting this completed in a timely fashion. Not that it's not going to be completed, but it will. But we need everybody to share and like on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And
what's the handle for people to follow?
At Midway Doc on Twitter, at Midway Doc on Instagram, and I think it's Midway Documentary, The Story of Chicago Hip Hop on Facebook. So follow and share, share, share.
Ryan hangs up on me. I was going to say, Ryan hangs up on me probably once or twice a week because my job as a producer is to give him unrealistic stuff. Like, I dream up things that we're going to do, and he's like, bro, do you know how much money that's going to cost? I'm like, I don't care. We're going to figure it out. And we have been. But I literally, he's like, no, we're not. I'm like, yes, we are. And you're going to, and I just like, you're going to do it. And he's like,
yeah,
okay.
And then I call Grayson to vent a little bit and see what we can do and what we can't do. So it's a team project.
That's what a producer does. He yells at the director.
But back to your question, we do have thoughts of maybe turning this into a series, or maybe like even in like an extended cut at some point. Things may change. We're not to that point yet. I still would love to do an actual, just like a 2-ish hour, feature-length documentary, because I think it's important to get the Chicago story out, and you can't screen a 10-hour series, in another state for that. So I still want to be able to do like the feature length, so we can show that around. So, but there's definitely talks of all that stuff, and at some point, whether it's through the archives or through another more produced thing, everybody will be able to read or watch all the interviews that we do and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Definitely. Awesome. That's great to hear.
Well, thank you guys and good luck.
Yes, thank you.
And we have time for one more question from the audience.
How you doing? My name is Isaiah. I am the founder and executive director of RISE Urban Cultural Centers of Chicago. That's my dad and my son sitting over there. My dad's a board member. My son's a hip hopper. If you guys know Shadow Master MC, he runs 606. He's a board member on my organization as well. Basically, what our mission is to provide Chicago's at-risk youth a safe and productive environment to learn the 5 elements of hip hop. We just started in November. This is our first year. We hope in the coming years to become a 501c3 and gain our own facility and our own fleet. Basically, what we're going to do is go out to alternative schools and at-risk neighborhoods, grab these kids up after school, bring them to our facility, and right now we're developing a program based on the Gospel of Hip Hop at KRS-One. Yep. Now, being that we're in Chicago, we want to bring our curriculum and our program to our roots and offer that to our kids. Sure. All right, so we're right along with the mission of Midway. I would love to stand with you guys and work with you guys along the way to make sure we get that information to these kids, because maybe this generation, they might snooze on it. You know what I'm saying? They might snooze on it a little bit, but the next generation, those 9 to 15-year-olds, we can grab them up, and teach them what real hip-hop is about. Real hip-hop, the 5 elements. You know what I mean? I think a lot of kids nowadays, they look at the rap game. They look at the rap industry, and they think that's what hip-hop is. I'm sure
nothing to do with it.
I'm sure you all have heard of mumble rap. It's all over. And sure, that's an aspect of it. The guy you were talking about who got on the train and took a step off and knew it was over. I want to be able to change that mentality. Community is what hip hop is about. D.A. Smart, he's the God. That's the God right there. It's not, Vert or Uzi or Lil whoever. It's the guy that's from your neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to put that out there and say thank you guys, for all of you, for putting this together.
Salute
this
to
is
you
an
for
amazing
doing
thing,
the
and I cannot wait to see what it comes to fruition. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. I saw you b-boying.
Yeah, we saw you. You didn't think we saw you, but we did.
So that concludes our discussion. Thank you so much for being here again. You guys can follow them at Midway Doc on social media. If you'd like to keep up with me, you can follow me at The Franchise with 2 eyes. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.